So have you ever prayed to God for a sign? Have you ever thought it would appear in the form of a white dove on the windowsill? What if the sign doesn't have to be extraordinary or supernatural? So if you're waiting for a sign from the universe, this is it. Now go big. Okay? Not a white dove on the windowsill, but go for it. So last Sunday, my message, Align with the Divine, focused on using deep heart listening to hear divine guidance and catch a divinely inspired vision. Today, my message is supporting you in using deep heart listening to tap into your inner guidance and to put feet on your intuition. The human condition is we receive a sign and either we don't recognize it or we don't follow it, okay? And we look outside ourselves. We look into our heads, we look to other people. We're looking for answers in all the wrong places, from our intellect alone or from other people with clay feet, right? Like us. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't ask for directions when we're lost. It doesn't mean we shouldn't consult a map or GPS. But regardless of what they indicate, sometimes it's just common sense to heed the sign in your gut that says, I'd turn back if I were you. It reminds me of a news story years ago. A woman said she was just following orders when she drove her SUV down a boat ramp and into a lake because her GPS had told her to. The spiritual solution to this human condition is paying attention to that feeling in your gut, looking within, listening deeply for the still small voice of your heart's intelligence and taking action on the guidance received. Because if you remember from last week that I talked about the heart having the most sophisticated security system on the planet. And it will not open unless you are aligned with the divine, okay? Unless you are in a feeling tone that is characteristic of the divine. Love, gratitude, appreciation, compassion. Something that is in alignment with the divine. So, the spiritual solution is paying attention to that, looking within, listening deeply for that still small voice. Now, the reason this is important is that your inner guidance is a reliable, consistent source of guidance from the universe. It is a fail-safe inner GPS that will always steer you in the right direction. So what's in it for you? What would it be like to really listen to your heart? Anybody got a microphone they want to run around, Debbie? And see if anybody wants to share. What's in it for you to listen to this message, to listen to your heart, and to follow its inner guidance? Anybody want to venture what would be in it for you personally? Kathy in the back. Get your exercise, Debbie.
I would save a lot of time and energy not second-guessing myself and making a decision and going, oh, is that the right thing to do? Or back and forth, back and forth.
Oh, that's great. Not second-guessing, all that wasted effort and energy.
Well, similar to that, I would say clarity.
Yes. Yeah, having clarity about what is mine to do. Behind other side? There you go.
it's been my experience at 70-something years old now that my first impression when I ask something is always the spiritual, and then the second thing that comes in is the rational mind and discounts it. So I always listen to the first one, and it's always right.
Great, thanks. Yeah, just listening to that first hit of what is mine to do. Thanks for sharing those of you. So one of the things I thought is being directed by your heart. When we're directed by our heart, when I'm directed by my heart, it's always for my highest good, and it will always be for your highest good. We will be guided in ways that will protect us, that will prosper us, that will heal us, and in all ways bless us. It's really simple. It's knowing what to do and when to do it from the heart rather than from the intellect alone. So another word for this inner guidance is called intuition. And to me, it's the voice of God, by whatever name you call the divine. It comes from your true essence, your divinity. It comes from what in unity we call the Christ within, or your divine nature. And this inner guidance, this intuition, comes in many forms, and it's always accompanied by a feeling tone, a tone of assurance, of joy, of peace, of certainty, of clarity. So in our Unity books, The Quest, Richard and Mary Alice Jaffola write, although inner guidance may announce itself through the intellect, it operates through the heart, through your feelings. It comes as an insight or a feeling, and it always has with it a sense of rightness and joy. I think it's safe to say that no decision is the right decision until it feels right. And the right feeling is a feeling tone. It's a tone of confidence, of assurance, of joy, a knowing that you know that you know that you know. A knowing feeling that cannot be argued with. A knowing that all is well and this is what I am to do. And I believe, and I've believed this for many years now, that joy is what faith feels like. Because joy to me is a profound sense of assurance that all is well. So knowing that all is well is what inner guidance feels like. A knowing feeling tone is one of expansion, not contraction. It's a feeling tone of yes, even if it's stretching you to step out in faith and courage. Because the bad news is sometimes that right feeling is immediately followed by moments of sheer terror, as you were saying. Especially when the guidance is so compelling that you know you have to follow it, even though everything in you is screaming no. That was my experience when I received the sign that I had asked for, of whether to quit my job at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in 1995. I had been working in a safe, secure government job for 28 years. And I left that to step into ministry full-time at Unity Santa Fe. Wow. It was my first opportunity to really experience performance-based pay. And I remember the voice, and I remember my initial response. The voice said, the best thing that could happen to you would be to leave this job. And I said, I don't think so, but thank you for sharing. And the voice said, it would force you to find out what you're made of. And I said, I'm perfectly fine not knowing what I'm made of. But it was compelling. I could not ignore it. And so I followed it. And it was the best decision I ever made. It was the greatest prosperity demonstration of my life, even though I went from making a lot more money than I was making when I started here. For those of you who don't know, I started at $300 a week. But they gave me a raise to $350 after a couple of years. So I stepped out in faith because I could not ignore it. It was so compelling. And I stepped out in faith knowing, and I asked everybody in the congregation at the time to know with me, God is my source, not the Los Alamos National Laboratory. And my consciousness of God is my supply, not my paycheck. Then, about a week and a half ago, different topic, one of my stepsons called me, Ken, and he wanted to get my input and my guidance on helping a friend out financially. And he said that when he was wondering whether to give this person money and how much to give this person, he saw this gift card that someone had given him a number of months ago that he had never used. And it was a gift card for $500. And he said, I'm wondering if that's what I'm supposed to give to my friend. And I said, well, it sounds to me like a sign. It sounds like you've tapped into your intuition, and it could very well have been divinely inspired. So I suggested that he talk to his wife, Valerie, about it, and that they just sit quietly to see the feeling tone that came up. Was it a feeling tone of yes, of openness, of expansion? And he did that, and they agreed to gift the card to this friend, and all parties were blessed. How many of you have heard of Gerard's House here in Santa Fe? Okay, Gerard's House is in existence today. It's been in existence since 1997 because Sister Arlene Einwalter had a dream, and she woke up with a knowing that there had to be a center for grieving children and families in Santa Fe. And she put feet on that vision. I was on the first board of trustees. And so since 1997, Gerard's House has been a safe place for thousands of grieving children, teens, and family. A place where healing happens through acceptance and peer support. And then I read a story about Hot Rod magazine. In 1947, Bob Peterson, a former gas station attendant, back when they used to pump your gas, for those of you old enough to remember, somebody told me about it, yeah. And he acted on a hunch that there were a lot of guys like him who loved to soup up and talk about cars. So he and a partner risked everything they had, $400, to convert that enthusiasm into a slim magazine called Hot Rod. He lugged copies of the magazine to California car races, and he sold them for $0.25. And before the publishing company, Peterson Publishing, was sold when he retired in 1996, his publishing enterprise was producing 23 automobile and hobby magazines, and his personal fortune was estimated at $350 million. I was looking it up, and apparently there's 80 magazines. It's been sold to a bigger company. So, you know, he followed this hunch, this gut, this idea. And then there's my personal story of food and eating, which I'll never get tired of hearing about. So for years I'd say, I just wish God would tell me what to eat. Duh. God was always telling me what to eat for my highest good. I just chose to have what I wanted instead. It's called the pleasure trap. So 10 years ago, while I was on sabbatical at the True North Health Center, I did a 22-day water-only fast. And I watched about 100 nutrition and health-related DVDs. And one program felt right to me. It was Joel Fuhrman's Eat to Live program. So I bought the book, read it, and put it on the shelf. From where it kept calling me. A year and a half later, I decided to get serious about following the program. And the thought came to me, out of the blue, that I needed help from a professional. But I ignored that thought and attempted yet again to follow the plan on my own. But I vowed to seek help from one of Dr. Fuhrman's staff if I was still struggling a month later. Well, a month later, I received another sign. My triglycerides and cholesterol were high, and for the first time, my glucose level was above normal, and the doctor said I was pre-diabetic. I got it. I came home and called Dr. Fuhrman's office. They were closed for the holidays. Then I noticed on the homepage of his website, find a nutritional education trainer in your area. And the rest is history. On December 29th, 2012, I contracted with a whole plant food nutrition coach in California whose posting felt right. 3 months later, I had dropped over 100 triglyceride points. My cholesterol levels had dropped to normal limits. I was no longer pre-diabetic, and I had released 33 pounds. Now, I'd like to tell you that I've stayed on track since then. But on more occasions than I care to confess to, I have succumbed to eating processed vegan food. You know, you can eat very unhealthy vegan food, like potato chips, okay? There's all kinds. So just because somebody's vegan doesn't mean they're eating healthy. And of course, I could always get into the cheese trap. That's the other trap. You know, there's an opiate-like substance in cheese. That's why you say, I could never give up cheese. I know, because I've been on it for the past month, and I am struggling because it's addictive. Anyway, but I'm on a food plan that I can follow for the rest of my life, one day at a time, when I'm willing. A food plan that I would not have chosen for myself, because my favorite food used to be prime rib with horseradish sauce and sour cream and baked potato stuff with bacon bits and sour cream and butter. And I always like to get one of those fried blooming onions too, okay? So I would have never chosen this food plan for myself, but it seems like it chose me. And I can only say that when I go off of it, when I come back, I feel so good, because it's the best thing that ever happened to me, other than being Unity Santa Fe's minister. So signs are not necessarily a white dove or a burning bush. Sometimes they're very subtle, and sometimes they're not subtle at all. When I'm preparing for my Sunday message, I'll see a Facebook post with a quote, or an email will come in that says, oh yeah, it gives me an example, or a call from my stepson that tells me about a sign he saw. And when I ask for guidance and I turn within, sometimes a book catches my eye, or I have a vision of a book, and I go looking through what used to be an incredible library of books before I moved to a condo, and there's my answer. There's that perfect thing that I needed for that Sunday message. A friend who used to work here at Unity Santa Fe, Nancy Holzman, said one day she was noticing circling airplanes from her half-Dutch door kitchen door. And then she wound up working for Continental Airlines for 25 years. Pamela Wilson and Robert Adams saw a little brown man at the foot of their bed talking gibberish. It was Ramana Maharshi who became their spiritual teacher. In 1997, the La Cuchara Market, this building, I drove by it with the president and CEO of Unity Worldwide Ministries, and I said, there's Unity Santa Fe. It just came out of my mouth. And a year later, it was ours. And a year after that, we finished the renovation, and this wonderful sanctuary is our home. Now, there's several prerequisites for receiving inner guidance, and they're outlined in Unity's The Quest books. And they are release, openness, trust, and peace. Release, openness, trust, and peace. Those are the signs you look for to see if the sign you got is on track. So release. This means you have to totally surrender the outcome to the wisdom that God is right in the midst of you. Knowing that wisdom knows what is needed and is right now working on the invisible spiritual level to reveal to you what sign to send you and when. Openness. You have to be open to Spirit revealing what needs to be revealed, even if it's not what you had in mind. Trust. It's about totally trusting in the Spirit of God within you to guide you to your highest good, and then acting on that trust. And peace. It's a feeling tone of peace. Feeling peaceful even though you don't know the outcome. You have to know with every cell and atom of your body, your heart, your soul, your mind, that God as wisdom is willing only for your highest good, and that all is well. And to be willing to stay centered in that knowing. Remain open. Release your concern. Put it on what I now call the don't know altar, with non-resistance and surrender. And just say, God, speak to me in a way that I cannot possibly ignore. And then quit analyzing it. Quit trying to interpret it, as Kathy was saying. Quit trying to interpret everything as a sign. When your divine nature speaks, it will be clear. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. But sometimes not before it really shakes you up. So here's some wise advice. Don't ask God to guide your footsteps if you're not willing to move your feet. Okay? That's from onelinersandproverbs.com, very reliable source. And in Matthew, Jesus counseled, watch therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. So we have to be vigilant. We have to be watchful. And know that your inner guidance may show up in a number of ways. A sudden thought from out of the blue. A seeming audible voice. That's what mine was when I left the lab. It was audible. I literally turned around to talk back to it. A nighttime or a daytime dream. A billboard, Facebook posting, a bumper sticker, a sentence in a book. A feeling tone of confidence, assurance, faith, and spiritual understanding. A feeling tone of joy. A feeling tone of knowing that you know that you know. Stephen Lane Taylor, in his book, Row, Row, Row Your Boat, A Guide for Living Life in the Divine Flow, writes, if the guidance seems to be in the best interest of all, that is a good indication that you're receiving direction from your inner guidance system and not your ego. And it is important for you to follow that guidance, even if logic and reason are telling you something else. my logic and reason said, what are you going to do about health benefits? What are you going to do about disability insurance? I mean, I can't tell you what my logic continued to say to me to try to dissuade me from following that guidance. He says, your inner guidance system is continually directing you toward whatever it is you want to have, do, or be in life. Continually. But to take advantage of that guidance, you must be aware of the subtle ways that you are being directed. And you must be careful not to hastily dismiss or overrule that guidance because you know better. And finally, he says, if you want to be in the flow, you must avoid forcing things to go the way you think they should go. And you must be willing to move in a direction that is different from what you expect or what even seems reasonable. Do that, he says, and you will begin to live a life that is dramatically more fulfilling, more joyful, and on top of it all, remarkably effortless. So how do we do this? How do we know it's a sign? Well, you're here at Unity Santa Fe. If you've been here for a while, you know the first way, the first how-to is prayer and meditation. Maintaining contact with our inner guidance through prayer and meditation. Being prayed up and pre-prayered, and then being open and receptive to the guidance. Turning within to that one presence, that one power, to attune yourself to the source of life, knowledge, wisdom, guidance, abundance. Relying on that divine wisdom within you, rather than limiting yourself by using only your own human power or the power of others. Jesus said it, seek first the kingdom of God, and all else will be given. Not might, will be given. So it takes patience, it takes practice to develop an ear that can hear inner guidance from the still small voice. And so you say, God, speak to me in a way that I cannot possibly ignore. If you've ever attended a symphony concert, you may have asked yourself, how can musicians, in the midst of such discordant confusion of sounds, you know, when they're tuning the instruments, how can they hear the quiet tapping of one thin stick? Easily. They are expecting it. They are listening for it. That's what you and I have to do. We have to expect to receive a sign. We have to look for it. We have to listen for it through deep heart listening. Focusing on the breath. Imagining the breath as if you're breathing in and out through the heart. And tapping into a regenerative feeling such as gratitude, compassion, loving kindness, joy, and awe. And in that feeling tone, opening the heart, getting through that incredible security system to hear the still small voice. So I celebrate that not one of us leaves this sanctuary today without making a renewed commitment to ask for guidance, to listen, and take action. And so that's your call to action today, to listen deeply to your heart's intelligence as the voice of the divine. That is your intuition. And I celebrate your courage and wisdom to follow its guidance. And let's begin listening together right now in a sacred time of shared prayer. And so I invite you to straighten up, relax the shoulders and the jaw. Quiet the mind. Open the heart by just breathing as if you're breathing in and out through the heart at your own pace. Tap into that feeling tone that is characteristic of the divine, whether it be compassion, gratitude, love, confidence, joy. Just allowing that feeling tone to permeate every cell and atom of the body, the heart, the soul, the mind. Silently speaking to your heart. Saying words such as, divine nature, I am. I turn within and I listen deeply for your voice through my heart's intelligence. I am listening as you guide me in ways I cannot possibly ignore. I am listening, and my heart is overflowing with gratitude as I recognize your unmistakable signs. I am trusting as I release all concern, knowing your unfailing desire for my highest good. I am listening so I may know what to do and when to do it. I am listening in the silence. And as we gently bring our attention back to this time and place, silently say, thank you, divine nature of my heart's intelligence, for your continuous guidance and for the courage and the wisdom to listen and to take action. Thank you, divine nature I am. Thank you, thank you, thank you, that it is so, and so it is, and so I am. Amen.